I want to talk quickly about how the Philadelphia Eagles find themselves in this current situation with both
Yeah.
coordinators, with the head coach. And here's the thing that I keep coming back to, and you guys know more in your pinky about football than I know, but I know this much. It feels like that offense never, ever, ever, ever had answers for pressure at any point during the season. And that was a recurring
Yeah.
theme. Number one, it felt like the answers were throw it up to AJ and Devontae and hope they make plays. And when you start losing those guys, that becomes issues. So, Leger, I'll ask you, when you're rushing 4 or 5 or 6, and you know that as defensive lineman, how much easier is it? And then Brady, if you could follow up and just explain to me, why are the Eagles as a professional football team where they are in terms of their play call?
I almost want to let Brady go first. I want to laugh, but I'll explain. Like, so as a defensive lineman, and I played for Todd Bowles, so I knew, walking off the bus, we were bringing pressure no matter what. And to your point, Ryan, it just seems like the Eagles, the last 7-8 weeks of the season had no answer for it. If you go to the week before with Wink Martindale, they had no answer for the pressure. And Brady, this as a quarterback, usually you have a pressure meeting with your center, your offensive line, the coordinators. Everybody goes into that just because how important it is to have answers to counteract pressure when it comes. So as a defensive lineman, if we know they have no answer for it and we're sitting in different blitzes, just depends on what my responsibility is. I know if I could take a chance, maybe go inside if I have an outside safety coming inside, right? Or if I'm supposed to stay outside, I know I have to stay outside just because I know I might get a freebie, right? If they slide the line the wrong way, we've seen a couple guys come off the edge scot-free because the offensive line thought the blitz was coming from this way, but it's actually coming from this way. So it makes it a lot easier on the defensive side when you know a team is struggling with pressure. Usually, as defensive linemen, we hate teams that pressure a lot because we want to be able to rush one-on-one to get to the quarterback. But in certain instances, when you know a team is struggling and you can disguise which way you're coming from and they have no answer for it, makes it a lot easier. You might get 1 or 2 layups that game, Ryan, in regards to sacks.
I mean, look, we could talk a lot about this because I think it's one of the most fascinating things about, quarterback play and how they go about handling pressure. There's so many thoughts to it. The first is when a team's bringing pressure from one side, are you the type of team that throws into pressure? Meaning, do you have a hot route, a guy who's going to break off his route because, a linebacker, someone at that level is coming? Or if you bring a secondary defender, some people will categorize that as a sight adjust. Are you going to throw and break off that route because of that pressure? Or do you have a quick answer built in? Or do you have a particular play that, you're going to have to use the fake to be able to sell out on that and boot and kind of maneuver around? And so there's all sorts of different questions that you have to answer and how you want to go about handling pressure. And to me, it always starts with, are we a throw into pressure team? Are we a block it up team? Are we a throw away from pressure team? Usually if they're bringing guys here, they're going to be taking a void over here and then running some guys to fill that void. Well, if that's the case, there's a big gap over here. The problem is if you're a quarterback and you got pressure coming, there's going to be someone who's going to be uncovered. You got to get the ball out accurately to that guy, and he's got to get to that spot, and he might not even know it all the time before you get hit, right? So there's all those conversations you typically have in regards to what type of offense you're going to run, how you go about handling pressure. The other thing as far as blocking up, and you heard Leger kind of talk about those blitz meetings, that all comes down to how do you want to go about handling unique looks? Like a lot of times, the look that usually gives most teams the most issues is a double A-gap pressure, right? You have 2 linebackers sit over the center. You got usually a guy pressed up on the outside on the slot. And it's always figuring out which one of the 3, which 2 of the 3, who's coming, who's not. Those guys a lot of times are reading the slide of the line to then determine this guy's going to fake. If the line's going this way, he's going to fake, and then he's going to rush, and then maybe you might get the slot guy coming as well. It's all by design to try to stress trying to get mismatches in the rush, right? They're trying to get a, running back on a defensive end. They're trying to get, some sort of mismatch like that to get a free runner or get a free rush or get pressure. So, the hard thing about the Eagles and how they get to this point is, Nick Sirianni's called plays before, not extensively, during his time in the NFL. Brian Johnson, their offensive coordinator, he hasn't called a lot, obviously, in the NFL. So I kind of went into the season thinking, you lost a great play caller in Shane Steichen. You lost a great defensive coordinator in Jonathan Gannon. There's going to be some growing pains. And I think that's some of what we saw this year is I don't know that we ever got an identity for the Eagles offensively. I don't think they ever addressed how to handle pressure. And I think coming into this offseason, if they kind of stay intact, stay put, they're going to work on all those things. They're going to have a game plan for it. We used to say, like, have your toolbox. Like, you get a look that you don't know what to do with. You go to a 7-man protection, you have a combination of routes you can get to that you know are going to get open. And if you have a 7-man protection, if you got a tight end in the game, you should be able to protect up whatever you see out there and drop back comfortably knowing, yeah, I may have to get the ball out a little bit quick, but I know one of these guys is eventually going to get open regardless of what that pressure is.